The Crucible is a 1953 play by the American playwright Arthur Miller. The play is inspired by real-life events of 1692 to 1693. Let's discuss this play in detail.
Historical background. Written in 1953 by American playwright Arthur Miller, The Crucible is both a historical drama and a sharp political allegory. On the surface, the play details the Salem witch trials of 1692 to 1693. A period of mass hysteria in Puritan Massachusetts that led to the execution of 20 innocent people. However, Miller wrote the play as a direct response to McCarthyism and the Red Scare of the 1950s. Led by Senator Joseph McCarthy, the US government engaged in a fierce campaign to root out suspected communists. Citizens were pressured to confess and name fellow sympathizers to save their own careers and reputations, a modern-day witch hunt that mirrored the paranoia of Salem. Plot summary. Act 1. The Spark of Paranoia. The play opens in the home of Reverend Samuel Parris, whose daughter Betty lies in a mysterious coma-like state. Parris has discovered Betty, his niece Abigail Williams, and his slave Tituba dancing in the woods the night before. To protect his reputation, Parris calls for Reverend John Hale, an expert on witchcraft. Abigail, confronting the other girls, threatens them to keep quiet. When cornered by Hale, Abigail blames Tituba. Terrified for her life, Tituba confesses to dealing with the devil and begins naming others. Abigail and the girls quickly join in, fueling a sudden wave of accusations. Act 2. The tension builds. At the farmhouse of John and Elizabeth Proctor, a deep marital strain is evident. Following John's past affair with Abigail, Mary Warren, their servant and a newly appointed official of the court, returns from Salem with news that Elizabeth has been accused. Soon, court officials arrive and arrest Elizabeth after finding a doll with a needle in it at the house, a piece of evidence framed by Abigail. John vows to expose Abigail's fraud to save his wife. Act 3. The Breakdown of Justice. John Proctor brings Mary Warren to court to testify that the girls are faking. Judge Danforth demands absolute submission to the court's authority. To discredit Abigail, Proctor confesses to his adultery. When Danforth brings in Elizabeth to corroborate the story, she lies to protect John's honor, unaware he has already confessed. Seizing the moment, Abigail pretends Maria's spirit is attacking them. Terrified, Mary turns on Proctor, accusing him of being the devil's man. Proctor is arrested. Act 4. The Ultimate Sacrifice. Months later, Salem is broken by the trials. Abigail has fled with Parris's money. Elizabeth, now pregnant, is brought to convince John to confess so he can escape execution. Proctor initially signs a written confession to save his life. However, when Danforth insists the confession be posted publicly on the church door, Proctor tears up the paper. He refuses to blacken his family name and ruin the integrity of those who died holding onto the truth. He is led away to the gallows. Major characters. 1. John Proctor, a blunt, independent local farmer. He carries deep guilt over his affair with Abigail, but his quest for personal integrity ultimately leads to his martyrdom. 2. Abigail Williams, Parris's orphaned niece, vindictive, manipulative, and deeply observant. She orchestrates the witch trials to eliminate Elizabeth Proctor and claim John for herself. 3. Reverend John Hale, an intellectual minister called to Salem to diagnose witchcraft. He undergoes a profound transformation, moving from a zealous prosecutor to a broken man trying to save the accused. 4. Elizabeth Proctor, John's virtuous but emotionally distant wife. Her devotion to the truth is tested, and she ultimately forgives John, recognizing his inherent goodness. 5. Judge Danforth, the rigid, arrogant deputy governor heading the court. He refuses to back down or admit error, believing that any challenge to the court is a challenge to God. Main themes. 1. Hysteria and paranoia. The play explores how collective fear can dismantle a society. In Salem, long-standing personal grudges, property disputes, and religious repression boil over under the guise of religious zeal, allowing baseless accusations to override logic and evidence. 2. Reputation and integrity. In a rigid community, a person's name is tied directly to their survival. Paris defends his name at the cost of justice, while Abigail creates a false reputation of holiness. In contrast, Proctor chooses physical death over losing his moral integrity and tarnishing his family's name. 3. Intolerance and power. The Puritan theocracy splits the world into absolute good and absolute evil. Danforth declares, a person is either with this court or he must be counted against it. This rigid polarization leaves no room for nuance, transforming the legal system into a tool for tyranny. Thank you for watching.